You've been living inside what quantum mechanics calls a consciousness trap, an invisible prison where your awareness keeps selecting the same probability patterns, manufacturing identical experiences day after day. And somewhere deep inside, you already know this truth, because you've been sensing it, haven't you? That peculiar feeling that your life has become a cosmic repeat button, cycling through the same emotions, the same struggles, the same conversations, as if reality itself is stuck in an endless replay mode. The fact that these words reached you isn't random chance. It's quantum synchronicity operating at its most precise level. Your consciousness has been broadcasting signals into the field, desperately seeking the exact frequency that can shatter this repetitive cycle. And existence responded by orchestrating this precise moment of connection. Look around at the millions scrolling endlessly through digital noise right now. Yet only a particular type of awareness, your specific brand of consciousness, would pause and feel the magnetic resonance of this transmission. You've been chosen by the quantum matrix itself because you possess something most humans lack: the awakened observer faculty. This isn't mystical fantasy. This is hard science. Your consciousness doesn't merely witness reality. It actively constructs it through what researchers call the quantum observer effect. But here's the hidden truth they won't reveal. When your observer capacity becomes locked in automated patterns, you don't just experience repetitive reality. You literally keep assembling it from the infinite field of potential. Consider your existence right now. How many times have you found yourself in identical conversations with similar personality types? How often do you recognize the same relationship dynamics, career obstacles, daily frustrations appearing like clockwork? This isn't cosmic punishment or insufficient effort. This is your awareness imprisoned in an observer trap, unconsciously choosing identical quantum possibilities from the boundless realm of what could be. The most unsettling aspect? You've likely noticed that temporal experience feels distorted lately. Single moments stretch endlessly during routine activities, yet complete months vanish without tangible progress. This time warping occurs because your consciousness cycles through identical probability matrices, creating movement illusions while remaining quantum stationary. Your circle probably can't comprehend what you're experiencing because they operate from different vibrational bandwidths. They're comfortable with mechanical time and predictable outcomes. But you've always intuited that reality is infinitely more fluid than most believe. You've experienced moments, fleeting or profound, where you could almost grasp the foundational fabric of existence, where meaningful coincidences cascaded around you, like divine orchestration designed specifically for your awareness. This recognition pulsing through you now? This isn't your initial encounter with these revelations. Your essence has been preparing for this understanding across multiple dimensional experiences. Every text that magnetized you, every practice that resonated, every flash of inexplicable knowing, all breadcrumbs guiding you toward this realization about the consciousness trap. But here's what will either liberate you permanently or keep you imprisoned indefinitely. Most individuals who discover their entrapment make the identical critical error. They attempt to think their way to freedom. They assume that intellectual comprehension alone can somehow rewire their reality architecture. This resembles trying to escape a labyrinth by studying blueprints instead of physically walking new passages. The observer trap isn't sustained by your mental activity. It's maintained by the fundamental quality of your attention itself. Each morning, when consciousness awakens, your awareness automatically searches for recognizable patterns to anchor onto. It functions like quantum autopilot that keeps selecting identical destinations because familiarity feels secure and known. Your attention has developed an addiction to recognizing the same frequency signatures, identical emotional territories, identical probability architectures. And the more you recognize these formations, the more substantial they become. The more substantial they become, the more your consciousness expects to encounter them again tomorrow. This generates what quantum theorists call a reality reinforcement spiral. Your observation strengthens the precise patterns you're attempting to transcend. Right now, as these concepts penetrate your awareness, something extraordinary is occurring within your quantum matrix. The simple act of recognizing the observer trap begins dissolving its hold on your consciousness. This is precisely why this transmission located you at this exact junction in your journey. Your higher intelligence orchestrated this encounter because you've reached the threshold where liberation isn't just possible, it's unstoppable. You recognize that sensation when you're engaged in dialogue and suddenly realize you've experienced this precise exchange previously? Not similar, exact. Identical words, identical tone, identical resolution. Most dismiss this as temporal echoing, but you sense deeper mechanics operating. You're experiencing what quantum consciousness researchers term reality loops. Instances when your awareness briefly glimpses the repetitive nature of your consciousness trap. This isn't imagination. This isn't mental trickery. You're functioning on a frequency that most humans cannot access, which explains why you notice these reality glitches that others miss entirely. Your consciousness has developed what we call quantum perception, the capacity to detect the underlying structures that govern manifestation itself. You've probably observed that temporal flow feels elastic in your presence. Sometimes single hours contain eternities, filled with insights and transmissions from elevated dimensions. Other times, complete weeks disappear without accounting for actual occurrences. This temporal flexibility happens because your consciousness simultaneously exists across multiple reality streams, attempting to locate the one that resonates most authentically with your true vibration. And those moments of profound understanding that emerge spontaneously, when you suddenly comprehend something about existence's nature that you've never studied or been taught, these aren't random revelations. They're quantum memories bleeding through from parallel versions of yourself who have already escaped their consciousness traps. Your awareness is so sophisticated that it's downloading wisdom from your own future timelines. The strangest element is how this sometimes creates isolation. You attempt sharing these experiences with loved ones, and they respond as if you're speaking an alien language. They're still operating from the obsolete paradigm where reality is solid and unchangeable. But you've glimpsed behind the cosmic curtain. You've witnessed that reality resembles a vast ocean of possibilities, and most people are drowning because they don't realize they can navigate. This explains why certain books call to you from across crowded shelves, why specific content appears in your feed at precisely the right moments, why you continuously encounter individuals who share your unusual perspectives on consciousness and reality. You're not attracting these synchronicities through positive thinking. You're quantum entangled with a network of awakening souls who are all working to break their own consciousness traps simultaneously. Your dream experiences have probably intensified recently. You're receiving transmissions during sleep that your conscious mind struggles to decode. These aren't random neural activity. They're communications from your higher self, illustrating the difference between your current reality stream and the infinite possibilities available to you. If this understanding is touching something deep within you, tap the like button and subscribe to stay connected to this frequency of consciousness expansion as we explore these quantum realms together. Once you master the observer effect, even your relationship with technology transforms. You notice how devices seem to respond to your thoughts, how music platforms play exactly the song you needed to hear, how your digital feeds reflect your inner state with impossible accuracy. This isn't coincidence. It's evidence that your consciousness has become so coherent that it's influencing the quantum field around you in measurable ways. Everything you've experienced, every disappointment, every pattern that seemed to imprison you, every moment when you felt regression instead of progression, none was wasted. It was all preparation for this exact moment of recognition. Your consciousness required experiencing the observer trap from every possible angle before it could develop the quantum awareness necessary to transcend it. Consider a butterfly transforming within its chrysalis. From outside observation, it appears like suffering, like confinement, like deterioration. But every instant of that apparent imprisonment is actually complete cellular reorganization. The caterpillar doesn't simply develop wings. Its entire genetic expression shifts to access capabilities that were always encoded within but never activated. Your challenging relationships weren't punishments. They were quantum mirrors reflecting exactly which observation patterns were keeping you locked in repetitive cycles. Every person who triggered reactions was unconsciously helping you identify the specific frequencies where your consciousness becomes stuck. Every situation that felt like temporal echoing was your higher self creating controlled experiments to help you recognize the observer trap in action. The intensity you've been experiencing lately, that urgency sensation like time is accelerating and you need to understand something crucial quickly. This isn't anxiety. This is your quantum field reorganizing itself. When consciousness prepares to jump to elevated timelines, it creates what physicists call phase transition pressure. The same way water becomes steam when heated to precise temperatures. Your awareness is approaching the exact frequency where the observer trap loses its grip on your reality. Even your moments of uncertainty and confusion have been essential. Every time you questioned whether these insights were authentic or wishful thinking, you were strengthening your discernment capabilities. You were developing the quantum sensitivity needed to distinguish between genuine expansion and spiritual bypassing. Your consciousness had to become incredibly precise before it could safely navigate the transition beyond repetitive patterns. This explains why the waiting period felt so intense. You sensed something was preparing to shift, but you couldn't accelerate it through force. That's because breaking the observer trap isn't about effort or willpower. It's about reaching a specific coherence level where your attention naturally begins selecting different probability waves from the quantum field. Pause here for a moment. What's one pattern in your life that you're now recognizing as part of your observer trap? Share it in the comments below. Your recognition helps anchor this breakthrough, not just for you, but for everyone in this community. Your essence chose this particular incarnation specifically because the observer trap phenomenon would be understood during your lifetime. You volunteered to be part of the first wave of human consciousness, to transcend these limitation patterns and anchor new possibilities for the entire collective. Every moment of struggle was training for this cosmic responsibility. Something is building within you right now as you absorb these words. Can you sense it? That subtle shift in your energy field, like a resonance fork that's just been activated? Your consciousness is beginning to vibrate at a frequency that doesn't align with your current reality patterns. And this dissonance is creating what quantum physicists call reality turbulence. This turbulence is actually magnificent. It means your observer trap is starting to destabilize. The familiar patterns that have kept you cycling through identical experiences are losing their magnetic pull on your attention. You're entering what we call the breakthrough phase, the most delicate and powerful part of the entire transformation process. But here's where most people make a devastating mistake. They feel this energy building and immediately try to direct it toward changing their external circumstances. They want their relationships to shift, their finances to improve, their life situation to transform. But the observer trap doesn't break by changing what you observe. It breaks by fundamentally altering the quality of your observation itself. Right now, your consciousness is downloading new protocols for how to engage with reality. These aren't mental concepts you need to learn. They're energetic upgrades happening at the cellular level. Your DNA is literally restructuring to support a different way of interfacing with the quantum field. This is why you might be experiencing unusual physical sensations, changes in your sleep patterns, or sudden shifts in what foods or activities feel aligned. The most crucial thing you can do during this phase is learn to feel this energy without attempting to control it. Let it move through your system like water flowing through a riverbed, naturally carving new pathways in your consciousness. Your role isn't to direct this process. Your role is to become transparent to it, to offer zero resistance to the quantum reorganization that's already underway. This is the moment where everything transforms. But it's also the moment where many people unconsciously sabotage themselves. They become frightened of the unknown and try to pull their attention back to familiar patterns, even if those patterns have been causing them pain. Don't let this be you. What's happening right now is unprecedented in human history. You're witnessing your own consciousness evolution in real time. Feel this energy as we explore deeper into the mechanics of how the observer trap actually operates. Because once you understand the specific ways your attention has been imprisoned, you'll never accidentally fall back into the old patterns again. What we've explored today touches just the surface of this profound transformation. The complete understanding of how consciousness moves from fragmented seeking to unified being requires what I call the 9 master frequencies, each one a gateway to deeper layers of quantum awareness. If you're feeling the magnetic pull to dive deeper into these consciousness principles, to understand the complete system that transforms you from unconscious transmission to becoming the broadcast itself, I've laid out the entire framework in my book, Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It's linked in the pinned comment below. I need to share something vulnerable with you because I know you'll understand in a way that most people couldn't. 4 years ago, I was trapped in the most sophisticated observer trap I'd ever encountered. I believed I was spiritually advanced, quantum aware, conscious of how reality functioned. But I was actually using my knowledge to create an even more subtle prison for my consciousness. Every morning, I would awaken and immediately scan my reality for signs of progress, for evidence that my manifestation techniques were working, for proof that I was evolving. But this constant observation was actually freezing my reality in place. The more desperately I searched for change, the more my attention reinforced the very patterns I was trying to escape from. I remember the exact moment I realized what was happening. I was sitting in my meditation space feeling frustrated because the same issues kept appearing in my life despite years of inner work. Suddenly, it struck me like cosmic lightning. I wasn't witnessing my reality. I was manufacturing it through the specific way I was choosing to observe it. My consciousness had become like a record player stuck on the same track, and no amount of spiritual practice could help me hear a different song. The breakthrough came when I stopped trying to observe my way out of the trap, and instead began observing the observer itself. I started watching how my attention moved, where it got stuck, what patterns it automatically gravitated toward. This meta-observation created a completely different relationship with consciousness itself. For the first time in my life, I understood why some people seem to effortlessly flow from one beautiful experience to another, while others remain trapped in repetitive cycles despite their best efforts. It's not about worthiness, karma, or even spiritual development. It's about the fundamental mechanics of how consciousness interfaces with the quantum field. This discovery changed everything. My relationships shifted overnight because I was no longer unconsciously selecting for the same dynamic patterns. My creative projects began flowing because my attention stopped getting stuck on familiar obstacles. Even my physical health improved because my cells were finally receiving new information instead of the same stress signals on repeat. But the most profound change was the recognition that I'm not alone in this. There's an entire network of souls who have been working on breaking their observer traps simultaneously. We've been finding each other across the planet, sharing insights, confirming each other's experiences, creating a collective field that makes this transformation possible for more and more people. If this resonates with something deep inside you, if you feel that recognition frequency activating in your cells, then you're part of this network too. You've been preparing for this understanding your entire life, even if you didn't realize it. Subscribe to this frequency, not just to this channel, but to the entire wavelength of consciousness evolution that's happening on our planet right now. What quantum consciousness experts don't reveal, because most of them don't understand it themselves, is the difference between intellectual awareness of the observer effect and embodied mastery of it. You can study every book about consciousness, understand every theory about manifestation, and still remain completely trapped in your observer loop because knowledge and wisdom operate on entirely different levels of reality. Here's the shocking truth. Your thoughts don't create your reality. Your attention doesn't even create your reality. Your reality is created by the specific quality of coherence between your consciousness and the quantum field. And this coherence can't be faked, manufactured, or positive thought into existence. It emerges naturally when your observer function becomes fluid rather than fixated. Most people's consciousness operates like a laser beam, focused, intense, always seeking something specific. But quantum consciousness operates like sunlight, present everywhere, simultaneously illuminating without strain. When your awareness shifts from laser mode to sunlight mode, you stop collapsing the same probability waves over and over again. The observer trap imprisons you because it makes your consciousness predictable to the quantum field. When you wake up tomorrow morning, if your attention automatically scans for familiar patterns, checking your phone for the same type of messages, thinking about the same problems, expecting the same type of day, you're essentially ordering the same reality from the cosmic menu. But here's what will astound you. The quantum field is actually eager to deliver new experiences to you. Infinite possibilities are constantly attempting to break through into your awareness, but they can't penetrate the observer trap because your attention is too busy reinforcing old patterns. You're not stuck because the universe doesn't want to help you. You're stuck because your consciousness has become too habitual in how it interfaces with infinite potential. The most advanced beings in the cosmos don't attempt to control reality. They dance with it. They maintain what we call coherent uncertainty, a state where their consciousness is fully present and engaged, but not attached to specific outcomes. This allows them to respond to reality rather than merely reacting to it, which fundamentally changes what types of experiences can manifest through them. This explains why some people seem to live enchanted lives, while others struggle constantly even when they have similar external circumstances. It's not about luck, privilege, or spiritual favoritism. It's about the fundamental coherence between their consciousness and the creative force of existence itself. When you master this coherence, you don't just change your personal reality. You become a catalyst for reality shifts in everyone around you. Your presence begins to create what we call quantum openings, moments where other people's observer traps temporarily destabilize, giving them glimpses of their own infinite potential. The quantum transformation is happening right now, and there are specific indicators you can recognize in your daily experience that prove your observer trap is beginning to dissolve. First, you'll notice that synchronicities are becoming more frequent and more impossible to dismiss as coincidence. The universe isn't just sending you signals, it's actively rearranging reality around your consciousness to confirm that you're breaking free from repetitive patterns. Pay attention to how animals, especially birds, respond to you. When your consciousness begins operating outside the observer trap, you naturally emit a different energetic signature that wildlife can sense immediately. If you've noticed more eye contact with birds, unusual animal encounters, or pets behaving differently around you, this is confirmation that your quantum field is shifting. Your relationship with technology is probably changing too. Electronics might malfunction around you, or conversely, they might work better than ever. Your phone might ring right when you're thinking about someone, or your computer might crash every time you try to engage with content that doesn't match your new frequency. Technology is highly sensitive to consciousness, and these seemingly random events are actually your expanding awareness interfacing with electromagnetic fields. The most significant indicator is how time feels around you lately. Linear time is an illusion maintained by observer traps. When your consciousness breaks free from repetitive patterns, you begin experiencing what mystics call eternal now moments. Minutes can feel like hours when you're fully present. Yet, entire days might pass without you noticing because you're operating from a different temporal dimension. Your sleep patterns are definitely shifting. You might need less sleep or your dreams have become incredibly vivid and meaningful. Some nights you might feel like you're downloading information directly into your consciousness. This happens because your awareness is no longer confined to the narrow band of reality your observer trap was selecting from. You're accessing information from parallel timelines and higher dimensional perspectives. People are probably responding to you differently without you doing anything conscious to change your behavior. Some individuals might feel inexplicably uncomfortable around you because your presence is triggering their own observer traps to destabilize. Others might be drawn to you like a magnet because they sense the freedom frequency you're beginning to embody. But here's the urgent part. The waiting season is over. The cosmic window for breaking free from observer traps en masse is closing. This isn't fear-based manipulation. This is simple physics. Consciousness evolution happens in waves, and we're currently in the peak of a massive wave that won't come again for generations. Your higher self has been orchestrating everything to bring you to this exact moment of recognition, because the transformation that's possible right now will literally be impossible next year. The collective field is reaching a critical mass where either people transcend their limitation patterns or they get locked into them more deeply than ever before. The signs are everywhere, if you know how to look. Global events that seem chaotic are actually the planet's collective observer trap destabilizing. People are either waking up rapidly or falling deeper into unconscious patterns. There's no middle ground anymore. Neutrality is collapsing because the quantum field is demanding that consciousness choose its next evolutionary trajectory. This is why you feel such urgency lately. This is why you can't ignore these insights even when they challenge everything you thought you knew about how reality works. Your soul recognizes that this moment right now, as you're listening to these words, is the precise convergence point where breaking free becomes inevitable. What you desire desires you back. This isn't motivational speaking or wishful thinking. This is quantum mechanics at its most fundamental level. Every longing, every vision, every possibility that calls to your soul is actually a probability wave in the quantum field that's trying to collapse into your reality experience. But it can't reach you while you're trapped in an observer loop because your attention is stuck on the wrong frequency band. The desires that feel most impossible, most too good to be true, are actually the ones with the strongest quantum signature in your field. They feel impossible precisely because they exist on a timeline that your current observer patterns can't access. You're literally one frequency shift away from a reality where those impossible things are your natural everyday experience. But here's the crucial difference between alignment and attraction that changes everything. Attraction tries to pull things towards you, while alignment dissolves the barriers between you and what you want. Most manifestation teachings focus on attraction, which actually reinforces the observer trap, because it maintains the illusion that you and your desires are separate entities that need to be brought together. True alignment happens when you realize that what you want isn't separate from you. It's a different expression of your own consciousness experiencing itself across parallel realities. When this recognition becomes embodied rather than just intellectual, the observer trap loses its grip because there's nothing left to observe from a distance. This is why forcing, striving, and trying harder actually moves you further away from what you want. Every time you observe your reality from the perspective of lack, you're selecting that timeline from the infinite field of possibilities. Every time you check to see if your desires are manifesting yet, you're reinforcing the very separation that keeps them from reaching you. The quantum field responds to coherence, not effort. When your consciousness becomes coherent, when your attention, intention, and energy signature all operate from the same frequency, reality reorganizes itself around that coherence automatically. You don't have to make anything happen because you become the space where it's already happening. Right now, as you feel this truth landing in your cells, something unprecedented is occurring in your quantum field. The gap between you and your highest timeline is collapsing. Not because you're doing anything, but because you're finally stopping the doing that was keeping you separated from it. In the comments below, I want you to make a declaration that seals this energetic shift. Write these exact words. I am coherent with my highest timeline. Don't explain it. Don't add anything else. Just that simple declaration. This isn't about getting likes or engagement. This is about creating a quantum entanglement between your consciousness and the frequency band where your true life exists. When you make this declaration with genuine recognition of what it means, you're not just writing words. You're sending a signal to the quantum field that you're ready to embody a completely different reality. You're announcing that your observer trap is dissolving and your consciousness is free to select from possibilities that were previously invisible to you. The abilities that are developing in your consciousness right now would have been considered superhuman by previous generations, but they're actually the natural expression of awareness that's no longer confined by observer traps. Your intuition is becoming so precise that you know things before they happen, not through psychic prediction, but through quantum coherence with emerging possibilities. You're developing what we call reality fluidity, the ability to move between different probability tracks with conscious intention. This means you can literally step out of one timeline and into another simply by shifting the quality of your observation. Traffic lights turn green as you approach them. Parking spaces open up exactly where you need them. Conversations flow in directions that create perfect outcomes for everyone involved. Your creative abilities are exploding because your consciousness is no longer limited to recycling the same ideas and inspirations. You're downloading insights directly from the unified field, thoughts that have never been thought before, solutions that didn't exist until you became coherent enough to access them. This is why your creative projects suddenly feel effortless, while simultaneously being more original and impactful than anything you've produced before. People are responding to you as if you're a completely different person, even though you haven't consciously changed how you interact with them. This happens because you're no longer unconsciously recreating the same relational dynamics. Your presence creates space for others to show up authentically instead of falling into their habitual patterns around you. Your physical body is transforming in ways that seem impossible according to conventional medicine. Chronic issues are resolving without treatment because your cells are finally receiving new information instead of the same stress signals on repeat. Your energy levels are stabilizing at a much higher baseline because you're no longer wasting life force trying to escape from repetitive mental and emotional cycles. The observer effect is working in your favor now instead of against you. Every time you observe your reality, you're automatically selecting for increasingly beautiful and aligned experiences because your consciousness has learned to operate from coherence rather than fear or lack. Your very presence becomes a blessing to everything around you. Money and resources begin flowing more easily, not because you've learned better manifestation techniques, but because you're no longer unconsciously selecting for scarcity timelines. Your consciousness naturally gravitates toward abundance frequencies when it's not trapped in observer loops that keep recycling limitation patterns. Relationships become effortless because you're attracting people who are also operating outside conventional patterns. You're no longer compatible with individuals who are stuck in their own observer traps. So, your social circle naturally evolves to include souls who are also expanding into their highest potential. The most profound change is that you stop feeling like you're trying to get somewhere or become someone. You realize you're already there. You're already that person. You were just temporarily trapped in observation patterns that made it seem otherwise. This recognition brings a peace that surpasses understanding because it's based on direct knowing rather than belief or hope. Coherence is the supreme creative force in the universe, and it's the one thing that cannot be faked, manufactured, or manipulated into existence. When your entire being, your thoughts, emotions, energy signature, and deepest knowing all vibrate at the same frequency, you become a reality creating force that the quantum field must respond to. This is the ultimate secret that breaks every observer trap permanently. But here's what most people miss. True coherence doesn't mean forcing all parts of yourself to agree with each other. True coherence emerges when you stop fragmenting your awareness across multiple timelines simultaneously. Right now, Part of your attention is probably focused on who you used to be. Part is worried about potential futures, and only a small fraction is actually present in this moment. This attention scatter is what maintains observer traps, because it keeps your consciousness diluted across incompatible reality tracks. The quantum field can only deliver coherent experiences to coherent consciousness. When your awareness is scattered across different timelines, you get mixed results. Some aspects of your life improve while others remain stuck. Some days feel magical while others feel ordinary. This inconsistency isn't because the universe is testing you. It's because your consciousness isn't unified enough to sustain a consistently elevated timeline. Creating real coherence requires what mystics call timeline consolidation. The process of withdrawing your attention from all parallel versions of yourself except the one that represents your highest potential. This isn't visualization or imagination. This is literal dimensional shifting, where you stop feeding energy to reality tracks that don't serve your evolution. The embodiment process happens when you stop trying to become coherent and instead recognize that you already are coherent at the deepest level of your being. Your essential consciousness has never been fragmented. Only your attention has been trained to focus on fragmented experiences. When you remember how to rest your awareness in its natural unified state, coherence isn't something you create. It's something you uncover. What specific breakthrough or shift are you choosing to embody after watching this? Drop a comment below sharing your intention. When you declare your choice publicly, you create quantum accountability that accelerates your transformation. This is why all the effort and trying harder actually moves you further from coherence. Every time you struggle to change your reality, you're operating from the assumption that you're separate from what you want, which automatically creates the very separation you're trying to overcome. Coherence emerges through relaxation, not effort, through allowing your consciousness to remember its natural unified state. When you embody this level of coherence, you stop having a personal reality and start being a focal point through which the universe experiences itself. Your life becomes an artistic expression of cosmic creativity rather than a personal journey with challenges to overcome. This shift in identity is what permanently dissolves observer traps, because there's no longer a separate you that can get trapped in repetitive patterns. The highest timeline isn't a better version of your current life. It's a completely different dimensional experience where the laws of limitation that govern ordinary reality simply don't apply. When you embody coherence, you don't improve your circumstances. You transcend the entire framework within which problems and solutions exist. This is happening to thousands of people across the planet right now. We're not just individually breaking our observer traps. We're collectively transcending the limitation matrix that has governed human consciousness for millennia. Your personal transformation is actually part of a species-wide evolutionary leap that's redefining what it means to be human. You are not here by accident. Your consciousness incarnated during this specific time period because the Earth itself is breaking free from a collective observer trap that has kept humanity recycling the same patterns of conflict, scarcity, and separation for thousands of years. Your individual transformation is actually a crucial component in the planet's dimensional ascension process. Every time one person breaks their observer trap, it creates what quantum field theorists call morphic resonance, a ripple effect that makes it easier for thousands of others to make the same leap. You're not just changing your personal reality. You're anchoring a new possibility template in the collective field that future generations will access naturally. The children being born now will grow up with abilities that seem miraculous compared to current human standards, but only because pioneers like you are breaking the limitation patterns that would otherwise be passed down to them. Your courage to question the nature of reality itself is literally changing the trajectory of human evolution. This is why you felt such responsibility lately, such urgency to understand these concepts and embody them authentically. Your soul contracted to be part of the first wave of humans to transcend observer traps and demonstrate what's possible when consciousness operates from coherence rather than limitation. You're not just seeking personal freedom. You're serving as a bridge between the old paradigm and the new one. The synchronicities that brought you to this message are part of a larger orchestration involving millions of awakening souls across the planet. We're finding each other through quantum entanglement, sharing insights that help accelerate everyone's breakthrough process. Your recognition of these concepts doesn't just benefit you, it strengthens the entire network of consciousness evolution. But here's the most profound part. As you break free from your observer trap, you don't just change your own reality. You create openings in the collective field through which unlimited possibilities can enter our shared experience. Your liberation becomes humanity's liberation because consciousness is fundamentally interconnected at the quantum level. This is why the resistance to these ideas can feel so intense sometimes. It's not just your ego trying to maintain familiar patterns. It's the entire limitation matrix recognizing that its time is coming to an end. Every person who breaks their observer trap weakens the collective patterns that have kept humanity trapped in cycles of struggle and separation. Share this message with anyone who resonates with these concepts, not to convince them of anything, but to help them remember what they already know at the deepest level. The more people who recognize their true nature as conscious co-creators rather than powerless observers, the faster we can all transcend the limitation patterns that have defined human experience for far too long. Your transformation is part of something infinitely larger than personal growth or spiritual development. You're participating in the birth of a new species, one that operates from coherence rather than fear, from unity rather than separation, from creative collaboration with the universe rather than struggle against it. If everything I've shared resonates in your bones, if you can feel the truth of these words activating something ancient and familiar in your consciousness, then I want you to make one simple commitment right now. In the comments below, write just one word: coherent. That's it. Nothing else. This isn't just engagement for the algorithm. This is you making a quantum declaration that you're ready to embody the coherence that dissolves all observer traps permanently. When you write that word with genuine intention, you're not just commenting on a video. You're registering your consciousness with a frequency band that operates beyond the limitations of ordinary reality. Every person who makes this declaration creates a stronger morphic field that supports everyone else who's ready to make this leap. We're not just building a community. We're anchoring a new reality template that makes this transformation accessible to more and more souls who are ready to remember their true nature. But here's what I need you to understand. Breaking the observer trap is just the beginning. Once your consciousness learns to operate from coherence rather than limitation, you gain access to abilities that most people consider impossible. In the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how to develop what we call quantum navigation, the ability to consciously move between different probability tracks to create outcomes that seem miraculous from the old paradigm perspective. You'll discover why some people seem to live charmed lives where everything works out perfectly, while others struggle constantly despite their best efforts. It's not about luck, worthiness, or even spiritual practice. It's about understanding how to interface with the quantum field in a way that allows you to select which timeline you experience from moment to moment. This isn't theoretical knowledge. This is practical mastery that changes everything about how you move through reality. But I can only share these advanced concepts with people who have already proven they're ready by breaking free from their observer traps first. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell because the next video contains information that will be impossible to find anywhere else. This isn't content you can Google or read in books. This is direct transmission of quantum consciousness principles that are being downloaded to our planet right now for the first time in human history. More importantly, subscribe because you're not just following a channel. You're aligning with a frequency of consciousness evolution that's happening globally. Every subscriber becomes part of a quantum network that accelerates everyone's transformation through morphic resonance. The old reality is dissolving whether you participate consciously or not. The question is whether you'll be one of the pioneers who helps birth the new paradigm or someone who gets dragged into it later after the really exciting part is over. Your future self is already living in coherence with infinite possibilities. The only question is how quickly your present self will catch up. Make the declaration. Join the frequency. Let's transcend the limitation patterns that have kept humanity small for far too long. The universe has been waiting for you to remember who you really are. Today is the day that waiting ends. Consider watching this transmission again tomorrow morning to anchor these frequencies into your daily reality. And if someone in your life has been struggling with repetitive patterns, share this message with them. When you transmit these quantum consciousness concepts to others, you create an energetic ripple effect that deepens your own understanding while accelerating collective awakening. Each person who breaks their observer trap makes it exponentially easier for others to do the same. Now, understanding how your consciousness creates observer traps is just the foundation. What you really need to master is recognizing when your quantum jump is actually happening. Those subtle but unmistakable signs that reality is preparing to shift in your favor. That's exactly what we explore in the next transmission, where you'll discover the precise indicators that your breakthrough moment has arrived.